Hey everyone, welcome to Angie and Christie Right Now. I'm Christie Berman.
And I'm Angie Sandro.
And today we're doing our top 5 hints for Nano on finding ideas, because we all know that's the core of being a writer, is finding that idea that is going to spark everybody into wanting to write and buy your book. And they're not always easy to come by. Good
Yeah,
ideas.
a lot of times you get kind of stuck, I mean, sometimes inspiration strikes and you're just like, and you get that feeling inside when inspiration strikes, you know how that feels when you have a good idea and it's just like, oh. But then there's other times when you just can't think of anything and you get that other,
That's right. And
Yeah.
you have a good idea when you can't stop thinking about it, right?
Yes.
Like it overcomes your mind for days, and every time that you think about something, it's like, oh, let me write that down.
Right. And you're just kind of walking around in a day and
Yes.
people are like,
And everything reminds you of that story, right? Something happens and you're like, oh, yeah,
oh, I
absolutely.
should do this. Oh, I should do that.
That's right.
Oh.
So it's very cool. But for those days when you're looking for an idea, we have some ideas on how to find an idea, right?
Yes, we do.
Say that 5 times fast.
I can't.
So if you don't know what Nano is, NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing
Novel.
Month. Thank you for that. And we have a couple of videos already posted, but we have a video that explains what it is, how you can log into, make your profile, log into NaNoWriMo, and then join us as we write for the month of November. So go into our catalog and go find that one. And there's going to be like top 5 tips about Nano throughout the month. So get ready for Nano and come and write with us. But in the meantime, if you're looking for ideas, here's our top 5 ideas for finding an idea. Number 5 is, okay, I have done this before and it works for me. You list things that you love, you're excited about, that intrigue you, like things that you've always like thought, like I wonder, like for example, pyramids, like the pyramids of Giza, really intriguing.
Mhm.
Another thing, like, oh, the Aztec temples. You see where I'm going with this, right? Atlantis. Okay, I'm a spec fic writer, can you tell? Stuff like that. And then I'm seeing the butterfly on your book behind you, Angie. So I'm thinking butterfly effect. Like all these things, like they're like the really
And
intriguing
the
little
wings
things.
flap and the
Right?
hurricane starts. And
Exactly, or like little things like somebody does a service to somebody and that starts a whole section. So you put all these things in, you write them down, you snip them out, put them in a hat if you need to, and just pick 2. And with that, come up with an idea. And I'm telling you, it worked. Like you
that's
have to
good.
think outside the box a little bit, but it worked. It really does.
I never thought about doing something like that because I get stuck all the time. And it's like, having just these small little things that can kind of trigger your inspiration and let you think. This is like, butterflies on a pyramid, and then South America, and then you're like, and you start going down these little rabbit holes where you're like, oh, and what if this happens, and what if, and it's all about the what ifs, I think, right? It's like,
Yes.
what if, and you just
Yeah.
keep on playing and tagging with those what ifs until you come up with a fully fleshed story.
Exactly.
And there's some ways to try and help start.
That's exactly it. And then and then, you know what I mean? Like they
And
say, don't say but, say and then. So like you
mm-hmm.
mix that and then,
And then she
yeah,
said, and
exactly.
then this happened, and then
Exactly.
which is kind of going towards our number 4,
Which
which
is
is to like read magazines, articles, newspapers, headlines, look at something like that and try to help you write.
yeah. And that's worked for me too. Like I was in a writing class one time where the professor actually told us to go get magazines, whichever one we liked. Obviously, I'm reading like science magazine because I'm doing the spec fix. I read science magazines and stuff like that. National Geographic is a great one too.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, and like instead of reading the article to know what this is about, like let your brain work on that, like read even the headlines in some newspapers. I find are great if you just read the headline and imagine what the story would be maybe in the future, or if you were a time traveler or stuff like that, and that can spark another.
I always use pictures, and so like different magazines for the pictures, like
Yes.
and then there's the I'm blanking on the name of the website where it's like you post different pictures up and you have your own little board where you
Pinterest.
Pinterest, yes.
Yes.
I was like totally blanking on the name, but yeah, on Pinterest for each of my novels I always have like a storyboard, and so when I was stuck I would go through and I would just start like finding pictures that are kind of in the same world.
Love
So
it.
like my books were set in Louisiana and swamp. And so I would go through and I would look for swamp pictures and, alligators. And it would take you in these different routes. Like some of the pictures would have something that would kind of spark your interest. And you'd be like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then you start looking for pictures for that too. And so you just kind of post them. And so I would just post them in my boards until I had a whole bunch of different ideas that can kind of help inspire me. But those are some of the ways too. It's like, so it's the visual, you're kind of letting your senses get in and stir up your imagination towards finding something that kind of can set the tone for your book, or set, get your juices flowing as far as ideas. And
I agree. Anything that gets you excited, right? Because when you're excited about an idea, that's when like everything like happens in your brain, and it feels like your brain is just like, oh, yes, and just adding to it. And like, you remember when we did that when we were 5? Let's put that in there too. So.
Well, and I was thinking, because for National Novel Writing Month, I'm writing my midlife book, and I haven't done the storyboard for that. And I was feeling, I keep, how I've been stuck on it. Because I started writing this for Nano in last year. Like when I first started writing it, I didn't even know. I'm still at 16,000 words. And so I was like totally stuck. And like, well, maybe that's a good idea. Like make a storyboard for that, because that's what works for me. Like everyone has to do what works for you as far as inspiration. And these are just some tips for, what you can try. For me, I know doing a storyboard with the pictures is very helpful in like the other books. And so I think maybe for Nano, I'm going to do one for this book as well. And maybe that might kind of spark my inspiration.
Like that. Absolutely.
Especially if you're using it as like an outline too. Like you're like, okay, so I want this, and then you find pictures. Okay, this is what's going to happen next. That can kind of help outline a story as well, which I hadn't thought about.
I just actually thought of something that is not on our list, but I'm going to put it here at the same time. Have you ever had an idea by listening to a song?
Oh yeah.
Like I've totally had an idea just listening to the lyrics of a song, and it's like, oh, this would be such a good idea. So add listening to music to our list.
Yeah, I think some people, they have playlists for their books.
Exactly.
Too. But you can kind of do it beforehand as well. Yeah. Like if you have like a kind of a germ of an idea, but you're stuck on it, but you kind of know what kind of music would be the perfect mood music for this book.
That's right.
That might help inspire you into like being able to visualize.
Although I can't listen to music while I write, I'm so jealous of people who can, because I think that would be totally a mood maker. You know what I mean? Like you put that music on, boom, you need to write this story. I think that would be great. I end up humming instead of writing, or singing the song instead of writing. My brain can't do both at the same time. So anyway,
well, see, I listen to movie scores, so I listen. So it's
then I would be thinking about like I would obviously go to Star Wars and Hogwarts, and then I'd be there. I'd be like, oh no, it's not good. My brain just doesn't work like that. Yeah. But enough about me. Let's continue with Nano. Our third idea for finding ideas is brainstorming, or freeform writing, I think is what it's called. Is just put your butt in a chair, put your fingers on the keyboard, and just type. I've actually written whole stories, short stories from one line, like the first line that came to my mind, like something like intriguing, something like I wasn't in the mood for this when it happened. Oh, what happened? And then you just go for it, or I wasn't expecting this at all the night that I did this, or, like something like that. And then all of a sudden your brain, it's going to click and say, oh, yes,
it's like, what?
That's right. Because if you're a writer, it's because you're creating characters and stories in your head all the time. So you just write one of those like really intriguing first lines, and it doesn't really have to make sense, because the only thing you're trying to do here is find an idea. So you're obviously probably not going to use the idea of the first line that you write, but you can say like, when it fell out of the sky, nobody was expecting it, something like that. And then boom, all of a sudden, and the next thing that you write is probably going to be a totally different story, but who cares? It got you started.
I think that's what's important, is getting started, because sometimes that's the hardest part, is just getting started. You can sit and stare at the screen, exactly, and then after a while you get bored because it's empty and there's nothing going on there, but if you have a line, that at least gets your mind kind of flowing and thinking into, okay, so what if? Yeah. And then where do I go with this? And so that's a good idea.
I've done it before where like, I don't remember exactly what the line was, but it was something intriguing like that. Like where you ask a question in your mind of like, what could have happened then? And it led me to another story completely, but who cares? That's the point.
Right? Yeah.
Or I know that there are some people, because we have interviewed authors who have told us that they use, what is it, the snowflake method or whatever. And I think that you could brainstorm that way too, like just put words down, and from that word it leads you to another word or another sentence or another adjective, adverb, something like that. And then when you look at it completely together, it sparks an inspiration. So any kind of brainstorming that you can do, I think, is just let your brain go free.
Yes.
Which is a dangerous place for writers sometimes.
I know.
But it's fun.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. So number 2. All right. So I like this one because I'm a nature person. I like being outside. But you can do in the city, you can be, it's just getting out, leaving the chair, leaving the house, going outside. Even if it's in your backyard where you're just sitting at the pond staring at your fish. Yep. Whatever.
Agreed.
Or, taking a walk in the woods, going on a trip to, your favorite place, going to a cemetery, like Lindsay Curry is one of the authors we interviewed who's fabulous. And she talked about, writing in walking through a graveyard, just to find inspiration. And, those are the things that you can do in order to feel those sparks, in order to feel that, you're not just sitting there staring at a screen, you're actually looking at the trees. You're smelling the air, you're smelling the earth. It's your senses are involved. And I think, I always talk about senses because it's so important in order to have those sensory experiences, because it helps you when you write, because you want to put that on the page. You want to talk about how the earth feels beneath your feet, what this world smells like. What are you smelling now? Is it the smell of something? Well, because I'm a horror writer, so I'm like, something dead. You smell something in the but it's true. It's like, or smelling flowers. I mean, it's kind of, you set up the page so that the reader comes in. And you can't do that if you don't know what it smells like outside your room, right?
I agree. And I will go even further than that. Yes, you need to get out of your chair sometimes because it's like a vicious circle, right? If you're staring at a blank screen and nothing's happening, then it's like a negative thing, right? So every time that you sit down, your brain is like, oh, I can't do this. So you get out. But once you're in nature, look around. And it doesn't have to be nature. It can just be like literally outside your balcony in New York City. If you look up and there's a strange cloud, boom, I've got ideas for that already. You know what I mean? Yeah. You look down and you see something that doesn't really belong there. Boom, I've got an idea for that already. So
just watching people interacting, people having conversations, people talking about, hey, who is this? In your mind, you make up stories about people when you see them. It's not accurate. You're making up stories about, I wonder what their life is like. I wonder what they're talking about. I wonder what they're doing. I wonder where they're going. I wonder what their next meal is going to be. And sometimes the story can come from just seeing 2 people walking down the street, or someone eating food, or someone doing something crazy that you're like, what? Right? And I don't want to write a book about that parkour person, jumping from buildings.
That's right. No. That is so true.
Yeah.
I've even just one time sitting on the subway, and you are sitting on the subway and you look out and it's like when you're in a tunnel and you see a reflection and you're like, wait, what? Like, what was that? Okay. My spec-fic brain goes directly to like, ooh, weird stuff, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be just somebody watching their reflection and noticing for the first time how old they've become or how tired they look, or, and then you can create a whole story from that, or at least a very good character.
Well, it was funny because when you said, when you said, I just stand on the balcony and look up, and I thought, aliens,
right?
Right.
Or you look up and you see a weird cloud and all of a sudden it's like, oh, like dystopian kind of there's something really bad in the cloud that's coming down. There's a virus or whatever, and same thing. Especially if you have the chance to go on a walking trail in the woods, there's so much, the sounds, if there's water, if there's mushrooms growing, if you see a weird spider, anything can
look up, because there could be something in the tree above you as well.
So yes.
Just saying.
No, I agree. And people watching, like you were saying, the best. And especially nowadays with people on their cell phones, you can hear conversations all over the place.
Right.
And it's the best because you only hear parts of the conversation. So you can make up the beginning and the end of that conversation any way you like.
Yeah.
So
I think the people watching is a lot of fun too, because it helps you learn about dialogue.
Yeah.
How does an actual conversation really work? What are the ebbs and flows of language? And everyone has a different way of speaking. I'm in California, where I talk is different because my family, came from a different place. So I have this weird accent where it's like from Louisiana and Kansas and California. And so, it's all coming out at the same time, and so you kind of look at these regional differences as well, because it's all beautiful, but you try to pick up, okay, so how does my character feel about the world? How do they speak? And how one person speaks may kind of show who they are too. It's like, someone who's really a fast talker, someone who talks really kind of slow and meanders,
It's so true. And, there's a difference between New Yorkers and, like out West, where life seems a little slower paced sometimes, and it can aggravate a New Yorker. And I'm sure the reverse is true. Like if somebody from out West comes to New York here, they're going to be like, could you just slow down?
Yeah.
Life is not that hectic. Come on, so definitely different things. But I agree. Overall, just get out, explore,
yeah, definitely
live.
So important. So very, very important. And something that I tend to forget.
Yep, because you get stuck in your rut. Yeah, absolutely. I do the same thing. Okay, we are down to our number 1 suggestions for finding ideas for Nano. And this one, anybody who has queried an agent is going to know this, but it's this but new, like the same thing but new. So, and the way to do that for me, my interpretation of that is mixing things that already exist into something that's new. Give it a new spark, give it a new twist, give it a new turn. And my way of doing that is, we all watch TVs. We're all like binging Netflix or Prime or whatever. And there are stories that hit us harder, that we like better. Well, then mix them up. Like, I don't know, like The Expanse mixed with The Marvelous Miss Maisel. Like it's kind of a weird mix, but there's a mix there somewhere that you can come up with a story. Or it can be a book that you read mixed with a TV show. Or I would even go as far as saying a character in a book mixed with a TV show, with another character, with a movie, like anything that you can mix together that you could tell an agent, oh, it's this story mixed with that story. And French, sorry, use my hands a lot. And that makes up a story right there.
That's awesome. Yes, that's a good idea too. Because then it's not just, it's not, I think people are so afraid that someone's going to have the same idea. Everything's already been done. And you can't have an idea because someone has already done it and maybe done it better. Throughout time, there are always going to be something similar. And if you let that stop you from writing, you're going to drive yourself crazy.
Agree.
Because there's all kind of books out there. And yes, there are going to be people who write better than you. Like, it's just a fact of life, right? Like, if you love writing, you don't let that stop, right? Like, if you write a book and you're like, oh my gosh, there's somebody who wrote something very similar to me, don't let that stop you. And I kind of got off topic because the topic is trying to find inspiration. Those are like ways to be inspired. You're not writing the same book as this other person. You're not writing the same movie as this other person, because you're an original. You're original. You're going to have a way to interpret this world, these ideas in your own way. And so it's not going to come out the same unless you're deliberately trying to make it come out the same, right? Like, and so, yeah, it's not going to, because your experiences are different from someone else's. And so you take those ideas and you make them yours. You make that character yours. You make that setting yours. You make that idea yours by adding in the things that you want to see in a book. And that's what it's all about, is making the story that you want to read. And if you make the story that you want to read, then that's going to have, other people are going to want to read it too.
Oh, for sure.
Well, I'm probably going to want to read it, right?
I'm going to want to read the one that you write for sure.
Right? I'm definitely going to want to read the one you write, because, we've been together for a while, so we know what we like. But, and that's it. It's like you find an audience for the books that you want to write. And if you are wanting a specific book and you're not seeing it out there, then you have to write it yourself.
Yep. I completely agree with you.
So these are the ways to try and gain some insight and some sparks of inspiration in your writing. And all of these tips, try them out. Like, if you're stuck, try them out. It's not going to hurt to try, and if one thing doesn't work, try something new.
Absolutely. And like, I was just thinking while you were writing that, like how people say, like, write what you know. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go a step above that, I'm going to say, write what excites you. Because like, I think it's not just what you know, it's what excites you, what you've been wondering about, what you think is exciting, what is like a little out there, you know, like something that like you would be able to, because you are going to spend a lot of time with this idea, like something that you would want to research deeply. I think that's what you want to write about.
Yeah, that's true. It's like you have to write what you know. You can't always know. You don't know everything. Like, you know, and there's some things that you may want to write about that you have no, like, I love reading science fiction. I love it, but I can't write science fiction. Like my mind just doesn't work like that, you know? And I mean, I can try, I can try to write it, but I would have to do a lot of research in order to even make it sound plausible, right? Because that's not me. But if you want to write science fiction, then research it then. Like if that's what you start reading books about it, start, you know, watching movies about it, you know, if that's what you want to write, that's what excites you, because that's going to make you try and be better at it. So,
and you probably write fantasy because that's what excites you. You know what I mean? Like that's what you find so appealing. So I think it's not just what you know, but this is just me personally. I don't think it's what you know, it's what's exciting to you.
And then just make it your own.
Exactly.
Well, that's about it. I think we covered everything. And so like if you like these videos and are learning things from them, hopefully, and are wanting more content, then we will try and do that for you. We will endeavor to bring you more and more, because we're on a journey as well. Our journey is to write better books and to learn from everyone else. We're learning just as much as we're trying to share that knowledge that we've learned over time. And so we're not going to be right all the time. We're not perfect people. And if there's anything that you want to let us know and teach us, then yeah, we are willing to listen and we want to learn it as well. So this is just our journey together. So if you want to keep going along with us on this this roller coaster ride of Angie and Christie right now, just hit that subscribe button and give us a like so that we can be found on the algorithm. We'd really appreciate it.
Sounds good to me. And thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you later.
Bye.